Hey, this is Dr. Eric with the Garage Games. We're going to start this new series of information coming out to you. Basically, we want to bring you information from ourselves as well as from other partners of ours who we believe have good knowledge to share. So my world is actually the nutrition world. Some of you know this. I'm a chiropractor and really run a wellness office, and I have for about 12 years now. Our practice is a high volume practice. We see a ton of people, and we've dealt with a lot of nutritional concerns on the therapeutic side and people with actual diagnoses and conditions. But we've also done a lot of optimal health focus over those 12 years, and we've had a lot of high-level athletes that we've taken care of. So even before I got involved with CrossFit 7 years ago, we were working with people who really had an attention to performance. And so I want to take a minute. We're going to talk just a little bit about leptin. And I figured it was a good place for me to start this discussion with is this hormone leptin, L-E-P-T-I-N, not to be confused with lectins, which are the little inflammatory proteins that you find in those foods that you shouldn't eat so much or so often. So I wanted to tell you about leptin just briefly because I think there's something that needs to be shared with all of you kind of performance-focused individuals. And then for those of you who are actually treating, or maybe not treating is the right word, but coaching individuals who are coming from a very cultural place with weight loss resistance, we can give you a way to really jumpstart their weight loss. And so as you look at the diets that are out there in CrossFit, I would say that they're both really effective, and both meaning that those two diets are primarily paleo or some version of paleo, as well as the zone diet. And I think they're both really good at getting people into a weight loss position. Now, my personal take is that cleanliness matters significantly, and the zone diet doesn't generally take into account cleanliness, meaning toxicity versus clean eating. I'm a fan of looking at that because I believe weight loss resistance is often going to be accompanied with relatively unclean eating. So I like clean, but that's not the point of my discussion today. The point of my discussion today is understanding just this little thing about insulin resistance or leptin sensitivity. So what we really want for anybody is we want a very, very sensitive hypothalamus to leptin. It's the gland that receives or hears this hormone. The hormone leptin, its job is simply to tell your body that you have enough fat store for energy. So by hearing leptin, it reduces your desire to eat. It stops putting sugar into fat cells, and it allows you actually to release free fatty acids into the bloodstream to be used for energy. So leptin is basically the stop eating, burn fat hormone. But for most people who are culturally focused, they are leptin insensitive, or better said as leptin resistant to some level. So if we were to test leptin by a blood test, we see that cultural ranges might be acceptable up into the 20, that'd be the unit marker that they use, number, and we see very commonly that people who are obese can be as high as 60 to 80 with their leptin count. Now I would tell you that if you were going to blood test your leptin, that I'd like to see you somewhere in the range of 1 to 4, and lower for men, and that lower range for men, and women can be a little bit higher, simply because of the normal fat store difference that occurs between men and women. We've tested leptin for years now. We've watched it. I've seen it change in people. I've also seen people who have a really good leptin number that, you know, culturally, where it's around 5 or 6, who still have a resistance to weight loss, you know, those stubborn pounds. And we work on them, getting them in a diet that allows them to improve their leptin sensitivity. And those people will end up dropping that weight as their leptin numbers drop from 5 or 6 down to 3 or 4. So that little bit of a jump, obviously as a percentage, is a significant jump from a 6 to a 3. That's a 50% reduction. So that's still very significant in a body, even though it doesn't sound like much compared to someone at 40 or 50 dropping to 10. It's still a significant reduction as a percentage. So how do you change your leptin? How does that work? Basically, the key is that you should have level blood sugar. So your diet should allow you to have level blood sugar. My concern and my problem with paleo in general is that it allows you to exchange one sugar addiction for another sugar addiction. And we see that very commonly where people will pull away from sugars or rich carbohydrates that turn to sugar, such as grain. And so you pull away from those sugars and then you move into what we'd call clean or natural sugars, such as fruit, bananas, grapes, rich sugars, sweet potatoes, still a rich sugar, or even high dosing vegetables that are rich sugars, such as carrots or red peppers, and there's value in these foods, but there's a period of time when you should probably pull away from them completely. So what I advise is that as you start your diet pursuit, if you really want to jumpstart your weight loss by getting your leptin resistance solved and making yourself very leptin sensitive, then you should move into a diet which doesn't allow you to eat fruit either, I know, and no sugars at all. So no maple syrup, no agave nectar, no coconut nectar, no honey, none of those natural sugars. The only thing I would allow would be stevia, but you could pull that away as well just to soften the sensitivity to sweetness of the tongue. And by doing this, you're going to give yourself a chance. Now, with fruit, we could have some fruit. What I'd recommend would be a handful of berries every day, so nothing more than that, or Granny Smith apples, something that's extremely low in the glycemic index or the glycemic load of the food. And by choosing those, you're going to allow yourself to get to this really level blood sugar. Now, at first, you're going to have incredible addictions. You're going to want to have something else. You're going to want to have more and more sugar. You're going to want to have more fruit. You're going to want to find a way to solve that. What we found is that by just encouraging and being committed through that time of sugar addiction disaster, that you can get through it. On the other side of it, you'll find sweetness in things that you never thought were sweet, and you will be okay. You'll be fine. It just takes commitment. It's really worth it, though, because on the other end of this, you will have a much easier time getting to your performance goals as well as your weight loss goals. So that's the hormone leptin. I advise you, if you have the resources, to get it tested. You can ask your medical doctor to do a test. Very often they will say, "What are you talking about? I don't know what this hormone is. No, I won't test it." If you have a good relationship, you can just say, "Hey, it's really important to me. I want to see my leptin number." You can go to a lab test company, a private company, and walk in with cash in your hand and say, "Hey, I need a leptin test." And if they say, "We don't test that," say, "Check your fertility panel." And they'll probably find it under their fertility panel if they don't have it listed separately. So you can test that. Other than that, we have some nice ways that I think are great to test to see how needy you are for food and how able you are to burn fat for energy, and that's fasting. Fasting, you can start with an intermittent fast and give yourself about 8 hours, from morning to till maybe midday-ish, and figure out how you're doing. Do you feel okay? Are you able to handle that? And if not, you probably have some leptin resistance still. If you're concerned with fasting and cortisol production, as I have seen recently in a post, you should be someone, depending on where you are, if you're a high-stress individual living in a high-stress lifestyle with a lot of weight to lose, you don't even have to do this. You know your leptin is a problem. Just trust me and do what I'm asking you to do. If you're fit and you've been pursuing a healthy lifestyle for some time and it's relatively clean and your eating's been good and you just need this extra step, then I'd recommend you do what I've done many times, which is to fast and ensure that you're okay by going and doing a workout. And you should be able to accommodate that workout without any issue. Will there be some cortisol production? Yes, absolutely. But you are a healthy individual, and cortisol is a normal hormone of stress, a normal produced hormone, and you'll have no problem clearing that cortisol the way you should if you're healthy. If you're not, then maybe it's an issue, but you should know that and don't even attempt it because you realize, hey, I've got a ways to go, and so I must have a leptin sensitivity issue. So this is a great place to kind of stir your discussion with yourself over how to go to that next level, how to lose that extra little bit of weight, or how to increase your performance. You like fat for energy, we know that. If you've been reading anything on healthy diets, you've probably seen coconut oil, almond butter. Let's up those, let's increase that percentage of caloric intake of those foods. And the reason why is because of the health benefit of that fat, but there's also a very nice efficient side to this as well, which is in 1 gram of protein or carbohydrate, you have 4 calories to gain for energy. In 1 gram of fat, you have 9 calories of energy. So, if I was somebody who wanted to carry the least amount of weight to have the highest yield of energy, and if I was really good at burning fat, which I know I am because my leptin is extremely low, then I can do a lot better by carrying the equal amount of calorie with half the weight. Now that matters to me because I do these things called adventure races as well, so I can race 24 or 30 hours or more in the woods non-stop, and so we got to carry food in that situation, so I like carrying fat because it weighs a whole lot less. For you, it might just be a simple efficiency of I got to consume less volume in between workouts, and I was able to recover and replenish in a much faster and complete way. And your stomach isn't quite as full, so that's a nice thing as well. So there you are, that's the discussion on leptin. I'm going to put a little bit of extra information out there for you on this topic the next time I do one of these videos, which will be coming up very soon, and we'll take that discussion a little bit further. So for now, good luck with that. Thank you very much for listening.